Hey guys, tonight we're slipping gently across the dunes of time to uncover some of the strangest and quietest mysteries history has ever buried. You're about to wander the lost cities of the Sahara Desert. Yes, the Sahara, that endless golden ocean of sand you've seen in nature documentaries or maybe imagined while watching old adventure films. But forget sand and scorpions for a moment, because thousands of years ago, these dunes weren't dry, lifeless wastelands. They hid lakes, rivers, whole civilizations. Picture this: you trudge slowly under a soft twilight sky, the sand cool beneath your feet, the wind brushing your face like a quiet whisper. The stars above are slowly blooming into view. But under your sandals, just meters beneath the surface, lie ruined walls, lost market stalls, broken pottery, a whole world swallowed by the desert. You could be standing on the roof of someone's forgotten house right now. Sleep tight. You probably wouldn't last long out here without sunscreen made from crocodile dung, like the Egyptians supposedly used. But let's not worry about that tonight. So, before you get comfortable, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shuffle deeper into the Sahara's story, and it surprises you. The Sahara wasn't always a desert. Scientists call it the African humid period, and during this time, about 10,000 years ago, these vast sands were rolling grasslands and shallow lakes. The wind might have smelled like blooming acacia flowers, not dry dust. Herds of animals roamed, elephants, giraffes, even crocodiles slithering through swampy ponds. It's hard to picture now, with endless beige dunes stretching in every direction. But here in this forgotten land were real cities, some grand, some humble, all of them lost. You squint through the imaginary heat haze and see the shadows of walls poking above the ground. A weathered archway, half swallowed by sand. A broken clay pot, perhaps once full of grain. Did a family shelter here from a sandstorm? Did merchants from distant kingdoms rest here on their way across the continent? Historians still argue whether these cities truly thrived as urban centers or were simply small seasonal camps. But the traces they left behind whisper something more permanent, something quietly stubborn against the advancing desert. One of the strangest facts. Some of these cities were built after the desert formed. Why anyone would set up shop in a place so dry, so merciless, is anyone's guess. Maybe they clung to a tiny spring. Maybe a hidden trade route passed by. Or maybe they thought the rains would someday return. Poor optimists. As you walk, your foot taps against something hard buried just below the surface. A rim of ancient pottery, maybe. Or a bit of copper jewelry. People here worked metals thousands of years ago. Bronze, copper, even gold, long before Europe imagined knights in shining armor. In some spots, archaeologists have found grinding stones, smooth from endless use, worn down by hands long gone. The problem, of course, is that sand covers everything. Archaeologists call this the Saharan trap. What they don't find quickly, the desert swallows forever. Maybe an entire kingdom lies under the dunes you just crossed, its walls softened into dust, its treasures deep underground. Maybe you just missed the great palace of a forgotten king. Oops. Sorry, Indiana Jones. And here's another mystery. Satellite images in recent years show faint lines and shapes beneath the sand, straight lines where nature makes none. Some researchers think they've spotted old roads, city grids, walls that once shaped vast settlements. But who made them? And why did they vanish? No one agrees. The data flickers, and the desert keeps its secrets. There's something strangely soothing about walking here, in the hush of ancient mystery. No sound but your slow footsteps, no company but the wind. Maybe, long ago, a caravan passed this way, its camels jangling softly under the stars. Maybe traders from distant Egypt or the black kingdoms of West Africa paused here, unrolling cloth and salt bricks under a canvas tent. Historians still debate whether these lost cities linked east and west or were merely local centers. The truth blurs like a mirage. And then the dunes rise again, gentle and golden in the fading light. You leave this first city, unnamed, unknown, and head deeper into the shifting sands, where more secrets wait beneath the surface. You walk on, the soft sand sinking beneath your steps, and the air grows cooler as twilight deepens over the endless desert. But this Sahara you see around you, dry, harsh, and silent, hasn't always been this way. Strange, isn't it? Once upon a time, this entire region pulsed with life. They call it the Green Sahara, or more officially, the African Humid Period. For thousands of years, starting around 12,000 years ago, the Sahara was alive with lakes as wide as seas, twisting rivers, and grassy plains stretching as far as the eye could see. You imagine standing here then, sinking not into soft, hot sand, but into spongy riverbank mud. Instead of silence, you'd hear the snorting of hippos, the bellow of crocodiles, birdsong drifting across the reeds. No sunscreen required, just a good set of sandals and maybe a wide straw hat. Historians and scientists still argue whether this green period was interrupted or continuous. Did wet centuries come in bursts or stretch unbroken for thousands of years? No one can quite agree. But the evidence is undeniable. Bones of water buffalo and even elephants have been found buried beneath the dunes. Fish hooks, carved stone tools for processing grain, clay pots decorated with waves, lines, and swirling patterns, simple but beautiful. And then there's the biggest lake of all, Mega Lake Chad. It sounds like something from a gentle sci-fi story, but it really existed. At its peak, this vanished lake covered an area larger than modern-day Germany. Imagine that. Where today there is only burning sand and cracked earth, you'd once see open water stretching to the horizon, canoes bobbing on the gentle waves, fishermen casting nets. You smile to yourself at the thought, maybe they had lazy summer afternoons here, picnics by the water's edge. Maybe children chased birds in the shallows. It's strangely soothing to think that life, simple, human life, thrived in a place now so silent. But of course, the rains faded. The Earth's tilt shifted slightly, changing the monsoon patterns. Bit by bit, the Green Sahara dried out. The lakes shrank. The rivers became dusty memories. And the people. They packed up, moved south toward the Nile or the Sahel, or adapted as best they could to the creeping drought. Some scholars suggest that the ancestors of Egypt's pyramid builders were among these migrants, carrying with them old memories of green fields and plenty. But that's still debated. As always in ancient history, the truth gets blurry in the blowing sand. One quirky fact: a few places in the Sahara today still hide traces of this wet past. There are so-called fossil rivers, long, winding depressions in the ground where water once flowed. They show up on satellite images like veins beneath the skin. Occasionally, after a rare storm, they fill with water again, turning parts of the desert into brief, shimmering lakes. But only for a little while. Like sleepy dreams before morning. And the rocks tell their story too. All across the central Sahara, particularly in places like Tassili Eniger and the Ennedi Plateau, thousands of ancient petroglyphs cover the cliff faces. Strange drawings scratched into stone, giraffes, elephants, cattle, even swimmers. Yes, swimmers. Figures with outstretched arms and kicking legs, their movements frozen in time. They call it the Cave of the Swimmers. You can still see these playful images, deep in the Libyan desert. But why draw swimmers in a place where no drop of water remains? The answer is simple. Because this desert once held pools and rivers wide enough for children to splash in. A forgotten summertime, immortalized in stone. Historians still debate how quickly this shift happened. Did the rains fade slowly, giving families time to pack their grain, herd their goats, and drift south? Or did the green Sahara collapse in a few brutal centuries, scattering its people like leaves in the wind? There's no clear answer, only fragments of bone, pottery, and ancient hearths left behind as clues. It's strange to think, all of modern human history, the rise of cities, kings, and empires, happened on a planet shaped by these quiet, gradual climate changes. If the Sahara had stayed green, would Egypt have become Egypt? Would the Nile Valley have drawn in so many people? Maybe somewhere out there, under the dunes, lies a city that could have rivaled Memphis or Thebes, but the desert took it before history could remember its name. You pause to glance up at the stars, sharp and cold in the velvet sky. These same stars shone down on those lost farmers and fishers. Maybe they sat beside their fires, looking up, wondering if the rains would ever return. Wondering if their children's children would walk on dry sand instead of green grass. And now, here you are, gently wandering their lost world in your imagination. The desert whispers secrets as you walk. The wind stirs old grains of sand, perhaps once part of a temple wall or the lip of a clay jar. All that life, all those stories, slowly dissolving into golden silence. Ahead, the shadowy outline of an ancient wall rises from the dune, a hint of the first true city you'll visit on this journey. But don't hurry. There's time yet to wander this forgotten green world, where hippos snorted and giraffes wandered, and where the desert was once alive with song. You shuffle onward through the gentle twilight, sand curling softly around your ankles as the distant stars bloom brighter overhead. In the pale light, the ground here changes, becoming firmer, smoother. Beneath your feet is something more than dunes. You are standing on the bones of a forgotten city. Welcome to the domain of the Garamantes, a name that rarely appears in schoolbooks, but who once ruled a strange and thriving civilization deep in the Sahara. The Roman historian Herodotus even wrote of them, describing a mysterious desert people who hunted Ethiopian cave dwellers, and whose chariots left dusty tracks across the sand. As always, Roman writers liked their drama. But the truth of the Garamantes is quieter, more curious, and, as usual, far stranger than the legends suggest. Here, buried beneath centuries of sand, lies the lost city of Garama, the capital of the Garamantes Empire. Once a bustling hub in what is now modern-day Libya, this was no mere caravan camp or lonely oasis village. No, the Garamantes built real cities, with streets, homes, even grand public buildings. At their peak, they may have ruled over 50,000 people, a quiet empire hidden from the world. But how? You glance around. There's no river, no lake. Just endless sun, endless sand. Historians still argue whether they were miracle engineers or simply desperate survivors of a dying green Sahara. Their secret was the Foggara, a network of underground water tunnels, like gentle veins running beneath the earth. Imagine crouching in the cool shade, chipping away at soft stone to carve these tunnels by hand, mile after mile, guiding hidden water from deep aquifers to their fields above. Without this quiet marvel, their cities would have vanished in days. Some of these Foggara tunnels stretch for miles beneath the sand, winding unseen like buried stories. And here's the quirky part. Modern desert farmers in Iran, North Africa, even parts of Spain still use Foggara-like systems. The Garamantes were part of a much older tradition of water magic, learned and passed across ancient cultures like secrets in the dark. No one knows exactly where they learned this art, or if they invented parts of it themselves. The desert, as always, keeps its whispers. You crouch down, brushing away sand from a small clay shard. The pottery here is simple, quietly practical. Rounded bowls, cooking pots, nothing fancy. Yet some bear faint decorative lines, careful little patterns, as if someone once wanted beauty even in the bleak heart of the Sahara. A small touch of softness in a hard land. And then there are the graves. Oh yes, the Garamantes buried their dead carefully, placing them in tombs of stone slabs. Some were laid with jewelry of shells or copper. Odd, isn't it? Shell jewelry in the middle of the desert. But long ago, these traders stretched their reach far, to the Mediterranean coast, to the gold fields of West Africa. The Garamantes were middlemen in the great silent commerce of the ancient world, carrying salt, slaves, gold, and goods along the hidden roads of the Sahara. Historians still argue over how powerful they really were. Some see them as empire builders, controlling trade routes like kings. Others think they were simply one of many oasis cultures, clever and local, but not so grand. The truth, as always, may be in the middle. A quiet people who knew the value of survival more than conquest. What made them fade away? No one knows for sure. Maybe the water table fell, draining their precious wells dry. Maybe rivals from the north, armed with new weapons, crushed their soft empire. Or maybe the slow creep of the desert, unstoppable as time itself, choked off their fields and gardens until nothing remained but dust. The scholars still debate, shrugging quietly in journals and conference rooms. The dunes offer no answers. A funny thought flickers through your mind. Some of these ancient tunnels might still hold water, deep down, trapped for centuries in their silent stone arteries. A secret spring, flowing unseen, waiting for another thirsty traveler. The Sahara is full of such ghosts. And then your eye catches something odd. On a cracked slab of stone, someone carved rough symbols, lines, dots, marks that almost look like writing. The Garamantes may have had a script of their own, lost forever now. Or maybe they borrowed from the Libyan Berber alphabets to the north. Or maybe this is no writing at all, just idle scratches made by a bored worker, killing time before the heat broke. Historians still debate whether the Garamantes had a written language. Another mystery swallowed by sand. You rise slowly, brushing your hands clean. The sun has dipped lower, and the world here feels softer, gentler, as if the ghosts of the Garamantes still drift through their empty streets. You imagine quiet laughter from a market stall, the shuffle of sandals on stone, the low murmur of voices at dusk. Somewhere, buried beneath your feet, are the sleeping houses of this forgotten empire. Their walls are dust. Their gardens are gone. But their story lingers, half told, half lost, like a half-remembered dream before dawn. And ahead, beyond the dunes, lies another forgotten mystery. A river valley where secret settlements once lined the banks. The path curves gently that way, the sand whispering promises of the unknown. But for now, you stand quietly in the twilight, letting the ancient silence settle over you like a soft blanket. You leave the quiet bones of Garama behind, the last whispers of the Garamantes fading into the dusk air as your feet carry you onward across the soft, cooling sand. The night wind stirs, brushing your cheek like an old memory. Before long, the dunes dip and spread wide, and you find yourself wandering into the forgotten corridor of the Ziz Valley. one of the Sahara's rare and precious ribbons of life. The Ziz River is no great Nile. It's a modest, seasonal watercourse that winds its gentle way through Morocco's eastern mountains and edges the desert with a promise of green. But long ago, this thin valley may have cradled something greater. Curious settlements, odd little towns, whose purpose historians still puzzle over today. You can almost see their outlines in the starlight. Low stone walls, faded into rubble, square houses with flat roofs, winding streets where traders once strolled, fingering beads or copper trinkets brought from faraway lands. What makes the Ziz settlements so mysterious is this. They seem built for traffic, for trade. But trade from where, and to where? There's no great city nearby, no ancient Rome or proud Carthage to explain their existence. And yet, the place brims with clues. Archaeologists have uncovered old tools here, grinders, storage jars, little copper pieces, and strange pieces of jewelry crafted from shells that only come from far-off coasts. Someone, long ago, made long journeys to reach this place. Historians still argue whether these towns were permanent cities or simply seasonal camps for merchants resting before crossing deeper into the Sahara. The debate lingers. No grand temples have been found. No royal palaces. Just the quiet traces of practical life, food stores, work areas, worn pathways trodden down by endless feet. Was this a quiet hub of trade lost in time, or merely a convenient desert pit stop? A curious little fact whispers its way to your mind. In some spots near the valley, ancient rock carvings still mark the cliff sides, worn but visible. One odd engraving shows what looks like a line of wagons pulled by donkeys, rolling steadily across the sand. Another, possibly, shows an elephant. An elephant? This far into the desert? But remember, the Sahara was once green. These travelers might have followed game paths along shrinking waterholes, carving reminders of their journey as they went. Or maybe they carried memories of distant elephant herds from the edges of the grasslands. No one is certain. The Ziz Valley would have offered rare refuge, a place to rest, water the animals, trade news, gossip, stories. You picture the scene, the quiet clink of copper coins changing hands beneath a shaded awning, the lazy yawn of a merchant rising from sleep to sell salted meat or woven cloth, the low murmur of travelers swapping news from distant kingdoms. Did you hear? One might whisper. The Garamantes to the south have dug new tunnels for water. Or, there's talk of gold to the far west, beyond the dunes. Of course, we have no written records from these traders. No diary tucked under a merchant's bed. Only these fragments, pots, tools, beads, and the old debate among scholars. Were these full towns, or merely marketplaces that flickered to life for a few short weeks each year? No one agrees. The desert covers more than stones. It covers certainty. You reach down and pick up a sun-bleached shard of pottery, light in your hand, patterned with faint lines. Maybe a cooking bowl. Maybe a spice jar. Did it once hold something precious? Frankincense, perhaps, or powdered herbs traded from distant lands. You imagine some ancient trader carefully packing it, hoping to sell the contents in the markets of the Ziz. Oddly enough, the valley's mystery deepens when you think of what hasn't been found. Where are the cemeteries? Where are the tombs, the bones, the markers of long life and quiet death? It's as if the people here never stayed long enough to bury their dead, or carried their ancestors' remains away with them to sacred ground elsewhere. Historians still puzzle over this absence. Were these desert wanderers fiercely mobile, refusing to lay down permanent roots? Or have the graves simply slipped away, hidden under centuries of drifting sand? A strange thought flits across your mind, a modern aside in this ancient land. You remember that NASA satellites once scanned parts of the Sahara and spotted faint grid patterns, buried beneath the dunes. Could these ghostly lines belong to old caravan routes, hidden walls, forgotten towns like those in the Ziz Valley? Maybe the clues are there, waiting in the cold digital silence of satellite data. Maybe the desert's secrets will someday be revealed by machines orbiting far above the Earth. But for now, you walk on, the stars wheeling gently overhead, the sand hushing your footsteps. The wind stirs again, cooler now, whispering low against your ear. Somewhere in the distance, the shadow of a forgotten market stall flickers in your imagination. You see traders warming themselves by a low fire, hear the creak of leather packs, the grunt of donkeys as they wait patiently to cross the dunes again. And then the valley narrows, the cliffs rising sharply around you. On the walls, if you squint, more rock carvings appear. Human figures with outstretched arms, cattle with curved horns, a lone figure holding what might be a spear or a staff. Who carved these? And why? Were they marks of ownership? Prayers for safe passage? Bored travelers scratching their stories into stone? Historians still debate their meaning, their age, their purpose. No clear answers. Only these quiet shapes, frozen in time. The Ziz Valley breathes behind you now, a strange half-forgotten corridor of trade and mystery, its secrets still locked away beneath dust and stone. You turn gently, following the ancient track south, deeper into the Sahara, where more forgotten wonders wait. Ahead, the dark outlines of distant rocks rise in the moonlight, hinting at another strange treasure. Caves filled with paintings of animals, hunters, dancers, even shapes that some say are not entirely human. The wind sighs softly, as if urging you onward. But there's no hurry. The desert holds its stories patiently, and so do you. The desert air grows cooler as you wander onward, the wind slipping over the dunes like a quiet breath. Ahead, the rocks rise, not mere bumps in the sand, but towering cliffs and plateaus worn smooth by millennia of wind. You've reached one of the Sahara's strangest, quietest galleries, the open-air museum of forgotten farmers and vanished animals, frozen forever in stone. This is the land of rock art, the silent diaries of ancient people who lived here when the Sahara still shimmered with green. Tassalai Enager, the Enedi Plateau, Jebel Uvarinit, names that sound like soft spells whispered in the dark. Here, where the desert now stretches empty for hundreds of miles, entire cliff faces are covered in paintings and carvings left behind by the people of the Green Sahara. Imagine rounding a bend in this dry canyon and stopping short, because there on the wall beside you, carved in stone and stained with old mineral paints, is a herd of giraffes, tall and graceful, frozen mid-stride as if grazing beside some ancient river. Yes, giraffes. Their long necks reach skyward, their legs delicate and careful. But there are no giraffes here now. They are long gone, vanished with the rain. And the animals don't stop there. Crocodiles grin with rows of pointed teeth. Hippos wade lazily in imagined ponds. Herds of antelope and wild cattle prance along the cliffs, forever hunted by stick-figure humans with bows and spears. This is no fantasy. These creatures truly roamed this place when it was green. Their bones sleep beneath the dunes now, but here on the rock, they still live. One strange and gentle mystery rises here. Among the animals are dancers. Human figures painted or scratched into the stone, arms raised high, legs bent, spinning in what seems to be joyful movement. What were they doing? Some scholars say they were shamans, caught in ecstatic ritual dances to bring rain or charm the spirits. Others think they simply danced for joy beside full rivers and green fields. Historians still argue which is true. The desert, as always, remains silent. And then there's the oddest of the carvings. Far from the animals, away from the busy scenes of hunts and dances, quiet, lonely figures appear. Strange, round-headed people with massive eyes and broad, featureless faces. They don't look quite human. Their bodies are oddly shaped. Their heads, sometimes, are topped with horns or rays like the sun. Who, or what, were they supposed to be? One quiet theory suggests these are shamans in trance, drawn to show their spirit selves during ritual visions. Another, more adventurous theory claims they show visitors from the stars, ancient aliens who came to the Green Sahara long before history began. A soft smile touches your lips. Aliens in the desert? Even here, conspiracy dreams wander. But no one really knows the truth. Historians still debate the meaning of the round head figures, uncertain if they are gods, visions, or something far stranger. You step closer to the rock, tracing your fingers lightly over the carvings. The grooves are shallow but firm, cut carefully, lovingly, by patient hands. You imagine the artist crouching here, brush in hand, mixing red and yellow ochre with fat or water to make paint. Maybe they hummed softly as they worked. Maybe they scolded their children for playing too close. Maybe they dreamed of rain. One charming fact: in some corners of Tassili, researchers have found what seem to be pictures of farmers milking cows. Yes, cows, in the middle of what's now endless desert. You picture it. Gentle herders, guiding their cattle to graze in wide green pastures beneath open skies, never knowing that their world would dry up forever. And yet this vanished farming life leaves behind no ruins, no broken cities, only the rocks tell their story. No plows, no barns, no fences remain. Maybe these early people moved constantly, chasing the shifting waterholes as the desert crept slowly back. Or maybe their villages lie buried under meters of sand, waiting for some curious archaeologist to stumble across them. Historians still argue whether these ancient Saharan farmers stayed put or wandered forever. A breeze stirs, gentle and soft, and the sand shifts at your feet. You wonder, what if right beneath you lies one of those lost farms? A cooking hearth, a stone house, a child's toy carved from bone. But the desert covers all. Its blanket of sand hides more than it reveals. Your gaze lifts to the high cliffs above, sharp against the starry sky. Somewhere in those shadows, more paintings sleep unseen, untouched for thousands of years. Explorers have spent lifetimes trying to map all the art here, but new panels appear all the time, hidden in caves, masked by fallen rocks. The Sahara holds its secrets close. And so you pause, letting the quiet soak into your bones. The Green Sahara is gone. The rivers dried. The animals fled south. But here, in these fragile paintings, the memory lingers, a dream of grass and water and gentle human life, fading softly into the wind. Ahead, the rock path leads deeper still, towards stranger images, older mysteries, and the next forgotten city waiting in the sands. But there is no hurry. The night is long, and the desert is patient. The desert wind sighs as you walk on, the soft sand shifting beneath your feet. You leave the painted cliffs behind, those silent witnesses to vanished rivers and dancing hunters, and find yourself crossing the quiet openness between rocky outcrops. The stars shimmer above, blinking gently, as if watching your slow progress. And then the ground changes beneath you again. Harder. Smoother. Here and there, dark shapes break the sand's surface, stones set in strange patterns, not scattered by chance. You've reached another mystery of the Sahara, the ancient megalithic structures that dot the desert floor, forgotten and unexplained. Megaliths. Out here. You thought that was a Stonehenge thing. But no. The Sahara has its own standing stones, its own circles of rock, its own quiet puzzles left by people no one remembers. The most famous of these lonely monuments lie in what is now Niger, the site of Gabbaro, and the even stranger Tikhit culture to the west in Mauritania. Gabbaro was once a lake, long vanished now. But when it existed, it was a lush cradle of life. Fisherfolk gathered on its banks, casting nets, gutting catfish as the sun set. Archaeologists digging here in the early 2000s were stunned to find perfectly preserved skeletons, dozens of them, buried beneath the ancient lakebed. Tall people, healthy, well-fed, their bones still wrapped in fragile grave goods, shells, jewelry, weapons. Some graves held whole families, buried carefully together. One grave contained a mother and child, the little one still resting beside her, forever cradled. A quiet moment frozen for 8,000 years. But what happened here? Historians still argue. Some believe these lake people were early farmers, others that they remained fishers and hunters for centuries. Maybe both. Maybe neither. The Green Sahara allowed many ways of life, some settled, some wandering. And then there's the oddity of Tikhit. Far to the west, on the dry edge of Mauritania, lie the crumbling remains of an ancient city. Yes, a city. Stone walls outline old compounds, courtyards, granaries. Some claim this was Africa's earliest urban center, born long before Mali's golden empires or the Ghana kings. Here, early millet farmers raised crops under the gentle Saharan rains, built stone houses, and stacked grain for the dry seasons. It's odd to think that city life may have first bloomed not in Egypt or Mesopotamia but out here, in what is now endless sand. Historians still debate this claim, whether Tikhit was truly a city, by ancient standards, or merely a clustered village grown large. But the stone walls whisper of order, of purpose. Someone planned these streets. Someone cared where the granaries stood. You step over a fallen stone, half buried in the sand. Maybe it was part of a house, its walls echoing with the sound of quiet dinners, or the chatter of tired farmers home from the fields. Maybe a child leaned against it once, listening to old stories about the rains. It's strange, comforting, to think of everyday life thriving here, so far from the busy world of pharaohs and emperors. And then you remember this small, lovely fact. Millet, the grain grown here by those ancient farmers, is still eaten across Africa today. Maybe the porridge on a grandmother's stove in Mali or Senegal comes from a line of seeds first planted by the people of Tikhit. A quiet, edible legacy that outlived stone walls and desert winds. But why did they vanish? No one knows for certain. Maybe the Green Sahara faded faster than they could adjust. Maybe their herds overgrazed the land, turning it slowly to dust. Or maybe raiders swept in from the north, chasing them out as the climate shifted. Historians still argue. The cause, like so many desert secrets, remains buried beneath the dunes. You pause to look back. The desert feels wider here, older. This isn't the home of kings or great armies. This is the quiet land of farmers, fishers, and wanderers, the ones history rarely remembers. And yet their legacy remains, carved in stone and seed. A small curiosity makes you smile. Some of these Saharan megaliths, lonely and forgotten, are still used today by desert nomads. Not as shrines or temples, but as signposts. Landmarks to guide their herds across the shifting dunes. A helpful hint left by the past for the present. Practical, as always. Above, the stars shift slightly, the slow wheel of the sky turning. You imagine those ancient farmers looking up, watching the same constellations, perhaps naming them in words lost forever. Did they see the hunter in Orion's belt? The gentle arc of the Milky Way? Or did they see something else entirely? Animals, spirits, ancestors watching over the green land below? Historians still wonder about their myths, their gods, their stories. But no songs remain. Only stone, and sand, and silence. And then the breeze rises, brushing the dunes gently as you move on. The path leads toward the east now, toward an old kingdom that thrived in the desert's heart, the realm of the Kanem-Bornu kings, whose empire whispered across the sands long after the green Sahara was gone. But that is still a few soft steps away. For now, you walk among the ghostly stones, the ancient walls, the forgotten streets, letting the quiet of lost cities settle around you like a gentle, comforting blanket. The air carries a soft, cool edge as you leave the lonely stones of Tikrit behind, stepping deeper into the heart of the Sahara where the sands smooth out into wide, rolling plains. Ahead, a faint line of shadow on the horizon hints at another secret, the memory of an empire that ruled not just the desert's edge, but its heart. Welcome to the realm of Kanem-Bornu. Strange, isn't it? When most people think of African kingdoms, they picture golden Mali or the walled cities of Great Zimbabwe. But here, far from the Atlantic or the savannas, a great empire rose on the shores of Lake Chad, a lake that once gleamed like a sea in the middle of the desert. Lake Chad is small now, shrinking more every year. But in the time of the Kanem-Bornu kings, over 1,000 years ago, it was vast and full, feeding lush pastures and rich farmlands. Traders and pilgrims gathered at its edges. Warriors rode its plains on horses imported from North Africa. And in the city of Njimi, the capital of Kanem, the kings ruled in quiet strength. Historians still argue when Kanem-Bornu truly began. Some say the Zaghawa nomads founded the kingdom around 700 AD. Others claim its roots stretch back far earlier, hidden among the tribes who fished and herded along Lake Chad's shores during the Sahara's last green centuries. As usual, the desert clouds the truth. But what is certain is this: Kanem-Bornu thrived as a crossroads kingdom. It sat at the meeting of the desert's salt roads and the savannah's trade routes. From the north came merchants bearing cloth, copper, and horses. From the south came ivory, slaves, and gold. Kanem's kings grew rich, taxing the flow of goods and people. Their empire spread slowly across the sands, its banners fluttering in the hot wind. You pause, imagining the great market of Njimi. Can you hear it? The soft chatter of merchants, the bray of donkeys, the ring of iron tools in the smith's yard. Spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, drift in the air. Pilgrims arrive from distant oases, their robes dusty and sun-bleached. One quirky fact: Kanem's early rulers were known as the Dugua dynasty, and some scholars believe they claimed descent from a mysterious figure named Saif ibn Yazan, a hero king from distant Arabia. A desert Arthur, whose legend crossed the sands to inspire these quiet kings. Is this true? Historians still debate it. Maybe it was political storytelling, a gentle way to make their power seem ancient and blessed. Or maybe some small party of Arab adventurers did wander this far, long ago, and left their stories behind. You walk gently across what was once Njimi's ground, though nothing remains above the sand now. No walls, no towers. The earth swallowed them whole. Only faint traces of pottery, fragments of bone, and worn beads hint at the city's life. But Kanem-Bornu did not vanish like Tikrit or Garama. It moved. As the climate dried and Lake Chad shrank, the empire shifted south and east, becoming Bornu, still strong, still rich. 4 centuries more, it flourished beside the lake's fading waters, adapting like a quiet animal to the desert's slow changes. One soft and strange truth: Bornu kings in later years adopted Islam, building mosques and sending pilgrims across the Sahara to Mecca. But they kept older traditions too, mixing local spirits and ancestor worship with their new faith. Even their royal titles reflect this blend: Mai of Bornu, King of the Lake, Lord of the Sands. You can almost hear the desert whispers around you now, the stories of camel caravans leaving Jimi, bound for Tripoli or Cairo, their loads heavy with salt and slaves. The creak of saddles, the jingle of harnesses, the quiet songs of caravanners sung under starlight. Historians still debate the full extent of Kanem Bornu's influence. Was it an empire of power, or of quiet survival? A kingdom of cities, or of scattered nomads paying tribute? As always, the sand has buried the answers. But one curious piece of survival remains: the language. Kanuri, once spoken by the kings of Bornu, is still alive today. People in parts of Niger, Nigeria, and Chad speak it, their words echoing the courtly commands of long-dead Mai rulers. A whisper from the past, hidden in the present. You smile at this soft legacy. Empires fall, cities vanish, walls crumble to dust, but sometimes, words remain. And ahead, the sands beckon again. Another shadow rises on the horizon, an even older sight, forgotten by all but the wind. The stone-ringed settlements of Artikhit, older than Egypt, older than Babylon, whispering of the Sahara's first farmers. But there's no hurry. The night is long. The desert is gentle. For now, you pause, breathing in the cool air of the silent Kanem Bornu plain, letting the weight of forgotten kings and quiet traders settle around you like the folds of an old cloak. The desert night wraps around you like a soft, endless blanket as you leave the fading echoes of Kanem Bornu behind and head toward the mysterious plateau of Artikhit. The stars seem to lean in closer here, their cold light spilling over the ancient stone circles and the dusty ruins that stretch quietly across this wind-swept expanse. The Artikhit is one of the oldest known settlements in the Sahara, a place where farmers planted seeds and built stone homes almost 4,000 years ago, long before the pyramids rose on the Nile. As you walk among the scattered remnants of walls, you can almost hear the faint murmur of daily life. The scrape of a potter's wheel, the thud of grain being ground into flour, the soft murmur of children playing among the stones. What makes the Artikhit especially remarkable is its complexity. These aren't just isolated huts, they're planned settlements, with streets and courtyards and grain stores. It's a community that knew permanence and order. Imagine the farmers here, carefully tending millet fields in the shadow of the Great Plateau, their hands darkened by soil, their faces bright with quiet determination. Historians still debate the full story of the Artikhit. Was it a long-lasting city, or a series of linked villages? Did its people trade with far-off lands, or live mostly in isolation? The archaeological evidence is tantalizing but incomplete. Some researchers suggest these early Saharan farmers played a pivotal role in spreading agriculture and social organization throughout West Africa, yet others caution against overstating their influence. A quirky detail: the inhabitants of the Artikhit crafted intricate jewelry and pottery adorned with swirling geometric patterns. These designs seem both artistic and symbolic, possibly hinting at social status or spiritual beliefs. Such artistry, emerging in the harsh desert environment, speaks of a people who found beauty and meaning even in the toughest of places. You imagine a quiet evening here, with families gathered around fires, sharing stories beneath a sky glittering with stars. Perhaps elders passed down tales of great rains and green valleys, stories of ancestors who once saw the Sahara bloom with life. But as the centuries passed, the desert encroached steadily. The rains waned, crops failed, and the stone villages were abandoned, swallowed slowly by shifting sands. Yet the memory lingers in the stones and patterns etched by those ancient hands. There's a soft irony in this. The farmers who sought to tame the land were eventually overcome by it, their legacy preserved only in silent ruins and scattered shards. The wind picks up slightly, carrying with it the faintest scent of dry earth and distant herbs. You pause to listen, feeling the weight of thousands of years pressing gently around you. Ahead, beyond the plateau, lie the shifting sands hiding other secrets, whispers of nomadic tribes, caravan routes, and perhaps even older mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. But for now, you rest among the quiet stones, feeling the Sahara's slow heartbeat beneath your feet. The dawn glow begins to spread faintly along the horizon as you rise, brushing the sand from your clothes. The desert coolness clings gently to your skin. Ahead lies another forgotten jewel of the Sahara's past, the legendary town of Shingeti, sometimes called the City of Libraries, now sleeping beneath the wide Mauritanian sky. Shingeti seems too strange to be real, a town of books in the middle of the world's greatest desert. But once, this quiet place was one of the most important centers of Islamic learning in West Africa. You imagine dusty scholars huddled by oil lamps, copying sacred texts onto parchment while camels snorted outside, waiting for the next caravan to arrive. Historians still argue whether Shingeti was truly a grand city or more of a scholarly refuge, a desert monastery in all but name. What is certain is that for centuries, pilgrims on their way to Mecca passed through this place, bringing ideas, goods, and quiet wealth to its doors. And the libraries, they were real. Ancient family collections of Quranic texts, poetry, science, and law, some older than the town itself. These libraries are still guarded today by descendants of the original families, who will gently show visitors a 1,000-year-old book, its pages fragile but whole. Imagine running your fingers lightly along the edge of such a page, ink from the medieval world smudged faintly by time. A lovely, odd fact. Some of the texts here include not just religion or science but recipes, love poems, and farming advice. Yes, farming advice, preserved in the desert where nothing grows anymore. A whisper from the greener past of the Sahara, when gardens bloomed in the oases. But Shingeti's greatness faded. As the trade routes shifted and caravans dwindled, the city grew quieter. Sand crept into the streets. The wind covered the paths once trodden by scholars and merchants. Historians still debate how many people lived here at the height of its power. Some claim thousands, others suggest only a few families kept the place alive between trading seasons. You imagine an ordinary day here, long ago, the muezzin's call echoing across the dunes, scribes dipping their quills, merchants unpacking salt blocks wrapped in woven reed mats, children chasing goats along dusty alleyways. A city of quiet purpose, hidden in the sea of sand. One strange feature remains visible even today, the mosque's minaret, built of dry stone without mortar, weathering centuries of wind. It leans gently, like an old man standing watch, defying the desert's slow hunger. No grand towers, no gold or marble, just rough stone and faith, holding fast against time. And the desert here holds other secrets. Close to Shingeti lie the ruins of other settlements, abandoned villages, caravan stops, way stations now buried beneath the dunes. Their names are forgotten. Their stories linger only in scraps of pottery and the faint outlines of walls. Some scholars wonder if Shingeti itself stands atop older towns, layer upon layer of settlement lost beneath its feet. No one knows for sure. The sand hides more than it reveals. A curious little aside, the people of Shingeti still tell quiet tales of jinn, desert spirits that wander the dunes, luring travelers astray with flickering lights or strange music. Perhaps the night wind's soft whispering sounds like their laughter. You smile softly. Even in a city of scholars, mystery lingers. You pause on the edge of the old city, looking back as the sun rises gently over the low stone houses. The walls glow pale gold, and for a moment, you can almost see the past. The flash of a scribe's robe, the murmur of pilgrims, the creak of leather saddlebags ready for another journey across the sand. But the road calls again. Ahead lies the memory of an even older place, one that stood when the Sahara was still lush and wild, the valley of Wadi el Mel, where strange rock structures hint at civilizations long forgotten. A place even more mysterious than Shingeti. For now, though, you rest a moment longer, breathing the quiet air of the city of libraries, feeling the weight of books, prayers, and dreams gathered gently in the stones beneath your feet. The dawn glow begins to spread faintly along the horizon as you rise, brushing the sand from your clothes. The desert coolness clings gently to your skin. Ahead lies another forgotten jewel of the Sahara's past, the legendary town of Shingeti, sometimes called the City of Libraries, now sleeping beneath the wide Mauritanian sky. Shingeti seems too strange to be real, a town of books in the middle of the world's greatest desert. But once, this quiet place was one of the most important centers of Islamic learning in West Africa. You imagine dusty scholars huddled by oil lamps, copying sacred texts onto parchment while camels snorted outside, waiting for the next caravan to arrive. Historians still argue whether Shingeti was truly a grand city or more of a scholarly refuge, a desert monastery in all but name. What is certain is that for centuries, pilgrims on their way to Mecca passed through this place, bringing ideas, goods, and quiet wealth to its doors. And the libraries, they were real. Ancient family collections of Quranic texts, poetry, science, and law, some older than the town itself. These libraries are still guarded today by descendants of the original families, who will gently show visitors a 1,000-year-old book, its pages fragile but whole. Imagine running your fingers lightly along the edge of such a page. Ink from the medieval world smudged faintly by time. A lovely, odd fact. Some of the texts here include not just religion or science but recipes, love poems, and farming advice. Yes, farming advice, preserved in the desert where nothing grows anymore. A whisper from the greener past of the Sahara, when gardens bloomed in the oases. But Shingeti's greatness faded. As the trade routes shifted and caravans dwindled, the city grew quieter. Sand crept into the streets. The wind covered the paths once trodden by scholars and merchants. Historians still debate how many people lived here at the height of its power. Some claim thousands, others suggest only a few families kept the place alive between trading seasons. You imagine an ordinary day here, long ago, the muezzin's call echoing across the dunes, scribes dipping their quills, merchants unpacking salt blocks wrapped in woven reed mats, children chasing goats along dusty alleyways. A city of quiet purpose, hidden in the sea of sand. One strange feature remains visible even today, the mosque's minaret, built of dry stone without mortar, weathering centuries of wind. It leans gently, like an old man standing watch, defying the desert's slow hunger. No grand towers, no gold or marble, just rough stone and faith, holding fast against time. And the desert here holds other secrets. Close to Shingeti lie the ruins of other settlements, abandoned villages, caravan stops, way stations now buried beneath the dunes. their names are forgotten. Their stories linger only in scraps of pottery and the faint outlines of walls. Some scholars wonder if Shingetty itself stands atop older towns, layer upon layer of settlement lost beneath its feet. No one knows for sure. The sand hides more than it reveals. A curious little aside, the people of Shingetty still tell quiet tales of jinn, desert spirits that wander the dunes, luring travelers astray with flickering lights or strange music. Perhaps the night wind's soft whispering sounds like their laughter. You smile softly. Even in a city of scholars, mystery lingers. You pause on the edge of the old city, looking back as the sun rises gently over the low stone houses. The walls glow pale gold, and for a moment, you can almost see the past. The flash of a scribe's robe, the murmur of pilgrims, the creak of leather saddlebags ready for another journey across the sand. But the road calls again. Ahead lies the memory of an even older place, one that stood when the Sahara was still lush and wild, the valley of Wadi El Mel, where strange rock structures hint at civilizations long forgotten. A place even more mysterious than Shingetty. For now, though, you rest a moment longer, breathing the quiet air of the city of libraries, feeling the weight of books, prayers, and dreams gathered gently in the stones beneath your feet. The sun climbs slowly as you leave Shingetty's ghostly stone alleys behind, your steps quiet on the warming sand. The desert stretches wide and bare once more, but not for long. Ahead, hidden in a dry and twisting valley, lies another whisper from the deep past, the forgotten site of Wadi El Mel, or the Valley of Salt. There is almost nothing left here, at first glance. No grand walls, no broken statues. Just scattered stones, shaped by human hands and left to weather under centuries of wind. But look closer. Hidden among the rocks are curious, low structures, rings of stone, carefully placed, low mounds that might once have been dwellings or shrines, faint pathways pressed into the earth, now barely visible. What was this place? Historians still argue. Some believe Wadi El Mel was an early pastoral settlement, perhaps one of the Sahara's first attempts at permanent life in the face of the desert's slow advance. Others claim it was merely a seasonal stop for salt traders or nomads searching for water. And then there are those who suspect something stranger, a ritual site, sacred to a forgotten people whose names are lost. One quiet fact lingers. The valley takes its name from salt, the most precious resource of the ancient Sahara. Not gold, not silver, but salt. Blocks of it, mined or scraped from dry lake beds, carved into rough bricks and hauled across the desert on groaning camel caravans. In a world where food could spoil in hours, salt meant survival. Imagine the noise here, long ago, traders stacking salt blocks under the sun, herders watering nervous goats at a shallow well, craftsmen chipping at stone to shape low shelters against the wind. There would have been voices calling across the valley, the dull thump of wooden mallets, the weary grunts of camels settling to rest. And this strange, lovely detail. Near Wadi El Mel, fragments of ancient grinding stones have been found, the kind used to crush grains into flour. But where did the grain come from? The nearest known farmlands lay hundreds of miles away. Some scholars wonder if these people carried millet or sorghum from greener lands, or if the Sahara, at this time, was still dotted with small patches of farmland, watered by brief, forgotten rains. Historians still puzzle over this. Was Wadi El Mel a permanent home, or just a passing stop in the endless caravan flow? The evidence is thin. No grand burials, no inscribed tablets to tell us names or dates. Only these stones, worn smooth by time and wind. And then there's the curious ring-shaped structures scattered through the valley. What were they? Storehouses for salt? animal pens, or shrines, places where the desert's early people gathered to pray for rain, for luck, for safe passage across the dunes? No one knows. Some of the stones are darkened, as if by fire, others are strangely aligned to the rising sun. It's easy to imagine quiet rituals here at dawn, hands raised, voices chanting softly to greet the day. One small charm of the site is its setting. Wadi El Mel curls between low hills, their flanks covered with ancient petroglyphs, simple carvings of cattle, gazelles, and human figures, cut deep into the stone. As in Tassili, these images whisper of a greener time, when herds grazed and hunters stalked game through brush and grass. Now only lizards scurry between the rocks. You pause to run your fingers over one of these carvings, its lines rough but clear. A cow, perhaps, or a wild antelope. The artist who shaped this picture is gone, their name forgotten even by their people's distant descendants. But their work survives, quietly holding its place in the endless desert. The wind picks up, gentle and steady. Somewhere in the distance, the faintest hint of moisture clings to the air. Perhaps a hidden spring, or the ghost of an old waterhole, long dry. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine the valley as it was. Green patches clustered around small streams, goats calling to each other on the hills, smoke curling from cooking fires. But the green Sahara was already dying when Wadi El Mel lived. The rains failed. The grass withered. The wells ran dry. And so the people left, maybe toward Lake Chad, maybe to the coast, maybe deeper into the desert's embrace. The valley emptied. The wind reclaimed the stones. Historians still debate whether these abandoned sites are scattered ruins of one great culture or lonely outposts of many small ones. Did the farmers of the Artikhit know the salt traders of Wadi El Mel? Did news of the kings of Kanem Bornu reach these dry valleys? The evidence is too faint to say. A strange modern footnote: satellite imagery sometimes reveals odd circular patterns beneath the sand here, shapes too regular to be natural. Are these ancient fields, old walls, caravan yards? Or tricks of shadow and stone? No one has dug deep enough to find out. The desert keeps her secrets well. You rise from the petroglyphs and glance east, where the sun now warms the land with gentle gold. The path leads on toward other mysteries, buried towns, vanished lakes, and the last echoes of the green Sahara. But there is no need to hurry. The sands are patient. For now, you pause, letting the silence of Wadi El Mel settle around you, warm and deep as sleep. The desert wind sighs behind you as you leave Wadi El Mel, following the ghostly trail of caravan tracks that curve gently eastward, where another shadow of lost civilization waits beneath the sands. This time, it is the phantom of Lake Megachad, a vanished inland sea so vast that it once dwarfed all other lakes in Africa, stretching nearly 400,000 square kilometers in its prime. Imagine it, a lake larger than modern Germany, gleaming in the heart of the Sahara. Today, Lake Chad is small and shrinking fast, a shallow puddle on the edge of Niger, Chad, Nigeria, and Cameroon. But thousands of years ago, during the wet phases of the Green Sahara, this place was a glittering inland ocean, feeding rivers, wetlands, and wide fertile floodplains where fish swarmed and birds filled the skies. Historians and geologists still argue over exactly how large Lake Megachad was at its peak. Some believe it covered almost 10% of Africa's surface. Others suggest it waxed and waned over the centuries like a great breathing lung. The truth may never be clear. The desert's record is blurred, scattered in hints and fragments. But the traces remain. As you walk across this ancient lakebed, now dry, flat, and cracked into wide plates, you can find them. Shells, small and perfect, scattered in the dust. The bones of fish, half buried under sand. Even the fossilized remains of hippos and crocodiles, once gliding through the warm shallows where you now stand in silence. One quiet curiosity. Archaeologists have found stone tools here, lying beside ancient beaches that no longer touch water. Spears, scrapers, grinding stones, all left behind by the fishers and gatherers who made their homes along the lake's shore. Did they camp here year-round, or come only when the waters rose and fish were plenty? Historians still puzzle over the patterns. And what of the people? There are few ruins, no grand cities, no carved temples. But evidence suggests these ancient lakeshore dwellers were skilled at pottery, weaving, and perhaps even early agriculture. They hunted the wild herds drawn to the water, elephants, antelope, giraffes, and they fished with nets and spears carved from bone and wood. You picture it, small reed boats sliding silently across the mirror-smooth water, paddled by quiet figures scanning for fish or crocodile. Children laughing on the shore, chasing each other through tall grasses. The smell of roasting fish rising into the clear sky. A moment frozen forever in the mind's eye. But the lake changed. Climate shifts began to dry the Sahara once more. The rivers feeding Lake Megachad slowed, then stopped. The great body of water shrank and split, forming smaller lakes and swamps that grew saltier as they diminished. The people moved on, their homes lost beneath the sand and dust. One odd and lovely fact: the sands here sometimes reveal strange shapes, giant ridges, curving like the ripples of old waves frozen in time. These are ancient beach lines, marking where Lake Megachad's shore once lapped against the earth. They stretch for miles, looping gently across the desert, a quiet reminder that water ruled this land once. Modern satellite photos show these lines clearly, like the rings of a forgotten bathtub in the wilderness. A perfect fossil of a lake. And under the right light, even the shadows of old river channels appear, winding through the dead plain, whispering of vanished streams. Historians still wonder how far these early lake dwellers traveled. Did they meet the farmers of the Arctic? Did they trade shells or fish for salt with the nomads of Wadi el-Mal? Or were they isolated, lost in their own shrinking world as the water died? A soft breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of dry clay and old salt. You close your eyes and imagine standing on the ancient shore, watching the dawn break over a shining inland sea, its surface touched with silver light. Birds wheel above. Hippos grunt softly. Somewhere far away, drums echo through the early mist. But when you open your eyes, there is only sand, cracked earth, silence. Lake Megachad is gone, its waters a memory older than history. Yet even this absence shaped the future. As the lake shrank, the people who depended on its bounty moved outward, some to the forest edges, some to the rising kingdoms of West Africa, some toward the Nile. Like seeds blown by the wind, they scattered, carrying skills and stories to new lands. One gentle irony: today, Lake Chad is still the lifeblood of millions. Farmers, herders, fishers, they cling to its shrinking waters, just as their ancestors once did. The lake may be small, but its quiet struggle for survival echoes the grand cycles of the ancient Sahara. You step carefully over a broken shell, pale and fragile as paper, lying where no water has touched for thousands of years. The wind brushes past, soft and warm, as if breathing the secrets of the lost sea. Ahead, the path beckons again, toward the mysteries of lost rivers, buried cities, and forgotten stone roads that crisscross the desert beneath your feet. But there is time enough for that. The night stretches on, wide and welcoming. For now, you pause on the floor of the vanished lake, letting its quiet emptiness surround you like a soft, endless sea. You brush the sand gently from your palms as you leave the empty basin of Lake Megachad behind, turning toward another mystery tucked into the Sahara's endless reaches. This time, you follow the faint suggestion of an ancient path, a road, or something like one, that once guided travelers and traders across this vast sea of dunes. The Sahara is silent now, but long ago it was woven with forgotten roads, some still visible from the sky. These stone-paved or beaten earth tracks stretch for miles across the desert, too straight and purposeful to be accidents. But who made them? When? And why? Historians still argue over these desert roads. Some insist they were the work of the Garamantes, the shadowy kingdom you met earlier, whose engineers laid these paths to link their secret oases. Others believe the Roman Empire pushed further south than its maps admit, building trade routes into the Sahara's heart to seek gold, slaves, and rare beasts. And some wonder if they are far older still, remnants of Neolithic pastoralists or even of cultures we have not yet named. One odd fact: some of these roads lead nowhere. They fade into the sand, or end abruptly at what seems like empty desert. Archaeologists have puzzled over this. Were these roads once connected to lost towns or watering holes now buried by shifting dunes? Did they lead to temporary camps, dismantled and gone without a trace? Or were they ceremonial in purpose, ritual paths meant for processions or offerings to the desert gods? The debate continues. As you walk along one faint line of stones, worn flat and low by time, you try to picture its makers. Camel caravans trudging past, their hooves leaving soft prints in the dust. Merchants with copper bracelets and salt slabs wrapped in leather. Guides whispering quiet warnings about sandstorms and waterholes. Perhaps you would have met Roman traders here, far from their marble cities, clutching scrolls and silver coins as they braved the heat for fortune. Or Garamantes drivers herding donkeys laden with garum, the spiced fish sauce the Romans craved, or strange desert plants used for medicine. One delightful, tiny mystery. Scattered along these old roads, archaeologists sometimes find small piles of stones, cairns, standing quietly by the path. What were they? Road markers? Grave sites for unlucky travelers? Or simple trail signs, built by passing hands to guide the next caravan safely across the shifting sands? Historians still aren't sure. And then there's the curious Roman rumor, recorded in crumbling scrolls from North Africa, that somewhere beyond the desert lay rivers that ran backward into the earth, or lands where the sun never set. Nonsense, perhaps. But was there a kernel of truth? Were these wild tales born from whispers carried by traders who glimpsed the Niger River's distant bends, or even the mysterious lands beyond the Sahara's green past? You pause at a low cairn, its stones dark against the pale sand. Maybe a traveler stopped here once, wiping sweat from his brow, squinting at the distant horizon where dust clouds hinted at another caravan. You feel a quiet kinship with him. Two small figures, far apart in time, sharing the same endless sky. Historians still puzzle over why so few written records mention these Saharan roads. Were they too common to note, like the countless unmarked trails of forest tribes? Or were they secret routes, jealously guarded by those who profited from them? Perhaps the desert kept its roads hidden to protect its fragile oases. One practical truth remains: these paths made the impossible possible. Without them, the trade that bound Rome, Carthage, Egypt, and sub-Saharan Africa would have faltered. Gold from Ghana, slaves from Lake Chad, ivory and ostrich feathers, they all traveled these hidden roads, linking distant worlds beneath the Sahara's burning sun. You smile softly, thinking of the quiet ambition that built these paths. No kings carved their names here. No monuments mark the way. Just the steady work of countless hands, laying stone upon stone, beating earth flat beneath careful feet, so that strangers could cross the endless sand. The wind stirs gently, ruffling the fine grit at your feet. Somewhere far off, beyond the shimmering heat haze, the faint outline of mountains rises, the Tibesti or the Ahagar Range, old and silent. But they are distant still. For now, you walk the ancient road, feeling the press of time in every grain of sand, every worn stone beneath your step. Ahead lie other secrets, the fading ruins of cities, the silent bones of old kingdoms, the last whispers of the green Sahara. But there is no need to hurry. The road stretches wide and slow, and the desert holds its breath. Word count, 1106. You follow the gentle curve of the old caravan road as the desert light softens to gold. The air cools slightly, and the sands under your feet feel firm, as if they still remember the weight of hooves and sandaled feet from long-forgotten travelers. Ahead rises another mystery of the Sahara, the shadowy remains of the Zinder trade nexus, where desert met savanna and the past whispered through crumbling walls. Zinder today is a quiet city in southern Niger, but centuries ago, before the rise of the great house estates and before French colonists drew their maps, this place was part of an important crossroads, where caravans from the Sahara met the rich lands of the Sahel and forest beyond. It is here, archaeologists believe, that cultures mingled: Berber, Hausa, Tuareg, and perhaps even the quiet remnants of the old Garamantes and Kanem traders. Historians still debate Zinder's origins. Some claim it began as a Tuareg camp, seasonal and shifting. Others suggest a fortified Hausa outpost stood here, guarding trade and tribute. A few argue that its roots stretch even deeper, to a time when Lake Megachad's wet fringes reached this far west, and nomads gathered to barter grain, salt, and cattle. The clues are faint: potsherds, scattered stones, worn beads carved from bone or shell. But they hint at something older, quieter, a small hub of life in a world slowly drying out. One strange and lovely fact: even today, buried among the markets and low courtyards of Zinder's old town, are houses made with walls of clay mixed with crushed shell. In a place hundreds of miles from the sea. These are the fossilized remains of ancient lake beds, mixed into building material. You smile, picturing masons stirring powdered lake shell into their mortar, unaware that their work held echoes of a forgotten inland sea. Zinder's rise was shaped by its position at the edge of the desert. It linked the northward salt caravans to the southern routes of kola nuts, gold, and slaves. By the 18th century, it would become a real city, a capital of the Sultanate of Damagaram. But its roots, quiet and half-vanished, go deeper into the time before the maps knew its name. You can almost hear the gentle bustle that might have filled this ancient market: camel bells clinking, leather bags of salt thudding to the ground, Hausa traders offering embroidered cloth, Tuareg guides haggling for fees to escort caravans deeper into the sand. The smell of spices, clove, cinnamon, maybe even imported nutmeg, drifting from shaded stalls. Historians still wonder how far these early traders traveled. Did they know the gold fields of Bambuk, the distant cities of the Maghreb, or even the rumors of Ethiopia's highland markets? No one is certain. But the trade routes that touched Zinder stretched far. The desert made the world small and wide at the same time. One quirky local story tells of a vanished well in Old Zinder, said to be so deep that it touched an underground river from the time of the Green Sahara. Some say the water tasted sweet, others that strange bubbles rose from its depths, whispering in the night. The well was sealed long ago, lost under modern buildings. But who knows what secret waters flowed there? And so Zinder, like so many of the Sahara's forgotten cities, became both a beginning and an ending, where desert people met the forest world, where salt met gold, where northern robes brushed southern tunics. A place of exchange, of waiting, of quiet purpose. Historians still search for its early layers, hoping to find walls, workshops, graves, but the desert has hidden them well. Modern Zinder grew atop the old, burying its past in mud and brick and quiet gardens. The sun dips lower as you pass the edges of the imagined old market, stepping gently between the memories of camels and merchants and whispered deals made beneath woven awnings. You wonder what news traveled through this place. Word of kings in distant Mali, rumors of war in Bornu, strange tales of white-sailed ships on the coast. One soft and simple truth lingers: the desert was never empty. Even here, on the edge of the sand sea, life pulsed gently for centuries. Caravans came and went, families settled and moved, water was found and lost. The Sahara hid its cities, but never fully silenced them. You take a last quiet breath of Zinder's past, the scent of dry earth and old stone warm in your nostrils. Ahead, the desert unfolds again, wide and silent. Another forgotten city waits beneath the shifting dunes, an ancient settlement that once marked the border of two lost worlds. But the night is patient. There is time to wander still. The desert feels utterly still now as you linger at the edge of Zerzura's mystery. The stars above stretch bright and endless, great quiet fires watching as they have for thousands of years, while the sands below lie soft and shadowed, hiding their secrets in perfect silence. You walk slowly, your steps sinking gently into the fine dust, knowing that this is the last chapter of your journey among the Sahara's forgotten cities. And what a strange journey it has been. From the vanished lakebeds of Megachad to the crumbled walls of Garamanti's strongholds, from the stone granaries of Tikrit to the quiet libraries of Shingeti. You have wandered among ruins that barely breathe anymore, their stories faint as old parchment, their names lost even to the desert wind. But here, in the heart of the Sahara, there is yet another kind of city, one made not of stone or clay, but of memories, myth, and whispers, the ghost cities that appear only when the mind grows tired and the horizon shimmers in the heat. Caravan guides spoke of them in hushed tones. Mirage cities. Cities of light and false water that lure the weary to walk forever toward salvation that is not there. Historians still debate how many weary travelers vanished chasing these phantom places. Did they imagine white walls, green trees, glinting pools? Or did the desert itself bend light and heat into cruel, perfect illusions? Some scientists claim it's simple physics, the refraction of sunlight across hot air. But others wonder if these tales are older than science, rooted in the deep fear of the endless empty sands. There is even a curious, quiet theory that some of these phantom cities were not tricks of the light, but real places, abandoned outposts, crumbling ruins, or buried wells, glimpsed only at the edge of vision. Travelers passing miles away might have seen them without ever reaching them, like ships missing a hidden island by a breath of wind. A strange little detail lingers here. Among the Tuareg and the Tebu, proud desert nomads, there are songs that speak of the city under the sand, a place swallowed whole in a single terrible night, its people turned to whispers, its gates buried by the dunes. No proof of such a city has ever been found, but the stories remain, passed from grandfather to child as warnings. And maybe, just maybe, a memory. You imagine it now, a grand city shining with oil lamps, crowded streets, loud markets, and sweet water running through stone channels. Then, one fierce storm, one tide of wind, and all of it gone beneath the sand in a single breath. And now, sometimes at dusk, travelers hear voices from below, soft as wind in the dunes. Historians, of course, dismiss this as folklore. But the desert is old, and the sand patient. Who truly knows what lies beneath your feet right now? One last scholarly puzzle clings to the edges of this thought. Some of the earliest maps of North Africa, drawn by medieval cartographers in far-off Europe and Arabia, mark odd dots across the Sahara labeled only urbs destructa, destroyed cities, or civitas incognita, unknown towns. Did these marks record real places, remembered dimly through lost trade routes and forgotten wars? Or were they inventions, like Zerzura, wishful dreams for explorers who longed to believe that the desert held secrets worth finding? No one agrees. The debate continues. But the maps, yellow with age, keep their silent marks. And now you pause, standing alone amid the low, warm dunes. The desert breathes gently around you, and the stars above turn slowly in the velvet sky. No sound but the faint hush of distant wind. No movement but the endless stirring of sand. Your journey has come full circle. You have touched the quiet remnants of kings and farmers, warriors and scribes, herders and scholars. You have walked where caravans once crawled and fishers once cast nets into vanished lakes. You have listened to the long, low voice of the Sahara, the world's oldest library, its shelves written in stone and bone and sand. And in this last, perfect moment, you smile softly to yourself. The desert has told you its story. Not all of it, never all, but enough to fill a quiet night with wonder. The ancient cities of the Sahara are not truly gone. They sleep beneath the sand, their memories held safe by the patient earth. Perhaps one day, wind and time will uncover their secrets. But for now, they wait. And so do you. The stars wheel gently overhead. The sand cools beneath your feet. The world softens into silence. It is time to rest. And now, as the quiet of the desert settles fully around you, let your breath slow. Let your thoughts drift like the soft sands beneath the stars. The ancient cities lie behind you now, hidden beneath the dunes and the weight of time, their memories fading into the warm air. Feel the coolness of the night brushing gently against your skin, the faint scent of dry earth and old stone lingering in the breeze. Above, the stars burn steady and quiet, their light traveling across endless space and years to touch the desert floor. You are small beneath them, but not alone. All who wandered here, caravan traders, kings, farmers, lost travelers, once stood under this same sky, breathing this same air, resting against the same earth. Let the weight of history slip from your shoulders. The ruins are silent now, the sand soft and smooth beneath your resting body. No need to hurry, no need to search. The desert holds its secrets close, and they will wait forever. The last echoes of the ancient world drift away, like the slow retreat of distant footsteps fading into the dark. The dunes ripple softly, and the wind hums its quiet song. Everything slows. Everything calms. Your breath matches the rhythm of the Sahara's long sleep. In and out. Slow. Gentle. Timeless. No more lost cities to find tonight. No more forgotten roads to walk. Only the soft darkness, the endless sky, and the quiet promise of dreams. Rest now. Let the desert cradle you. Let the stars keep watch. Sleep deeply, traveler. Tomorrow waits far away.